Welcome to your cathedral. I'm Father Greg Sakowitz. One day, a little girl was sitting and watching her mother do dishes in the kitchen. She suddenly noticed that her mother had several strands of white hair. She looked at her mom and said, "Mom, why are some of your hairs white?" Her mom replied, "Well, every time you do something wrong, honey, make me cry or make me unhappy, one of my hairs turns white." The little girl thought about this tremendous revelation and then said, "Well, Mommy, how come all of Grandma's hairs are white?" Special thank you to Mark Teresi, David Jonas, Father Mark, producer Smolka, to Father Mark, and David. Tremendous, beautiful music. Great job with the videography and putting the whole thing together, Father Mark. So the three of you, again and again and again, thank you, thank you, thank you. The children were lined up in the cafeteria of a Catholic grammar school getting ready for lunch. At the head of the table was a large pile of apples. The teacher made a note and posted on the apple tray, "Take only one apple. God is watching." Now, moving further along the line, at the other end of the table was a large pile of beautiful homemade chocolate chip cookies. A child had written a note, "Take all the cookies you want. God is watching the apples." I like those. COVID-19, racial unrest, stress, anxiety. But even if these conditions were not with us, I think most of us still worry too much. We worry too much. Did you know that the German word for worry means to strangle? The Greek word for worry means to divide the mind. That's worth repeating. The German word for worry means to strangle. The Greek word for worry means to divide the mind. Both are very, very accurate. Worry is a noose around one's neck and distraction of the mind, neither of which helps any time. As I mentioned earlier, we worry too much. Think about this. Worry never helps the situation. If I thought worrying would help a situation, I'd tell people, worry. Worry, when you think about it, it doesn't help, and yet we worry so much. I once knew a lady who did nothing but worry. She was an absolute worry wart. In fact, I said to her once, I said, "You worry so much that if you had nothing to worry about, you'd be worried because you have nothing to worry about." And she actually laughed. This weekend's readings, especially the beautiful gospel, this week of ordinary time, the man had two sons. And one son says to his father, "I'll go to work for you," but he doesn't go. The other son says, "I'm not going to go," and then later changes his mind and goes to work. Maybe they had so much on their mind, too much worry, too much stress. But you know, here's the thing. In today's gospel, the two sons are really all of us. What do I mean? These two sons surface two themes which encompass our journey through life. The first theme brought out by the actions of the two sons is a sense of personal worth, which is the backbone of human identity and the essential foundation of human happiness. The second theme is a sense of personal responsibility. In that context, I've often thought of people as owners or blamers. Some people are owners, some are blamers. We either accept personal responsibility for our lives, owning up to our actions and reactions, or we spend our lives blaming others. In fact, I've used this before many times, heard it some years ago. Sometimes we spend so much of our time blaming others, pointing a finger at others. But every time I point a finger at you, you did this, I blame you for that. 3 of my very own fingers are pointing back at me. So it's like, don't point in judgment. But let's face it, we all have problems. We all are anxious, filled with anxiety at times, depressing days, frustration. I've said this was the summer that didn't feel like summer. Summer by way of temperature and sunshine. It was beautiful, but the things that we do. But somehow God is with us and God will see us through. But are we handling them most of the time, our worries and our stress? Or are they controlling us most of the time? When we are afraid to face life, we stand the chance of losing it. If insecurity controls us, we run from life, avoiding risks, and refusing to be involved with people. We take no responsibility out of fear or failure. The result is we become more inadequate, losing our self-confidence and maybe our self-respect. In all our problems, it's always important to be aware of God's presence. I always tell people, God is with us always. You don't have to go through life alone. We can choose to, but God says, I'm with you. Even though at times we may feel the Lord has abandoned us, He hasn't. God never abandons us. The beautiful line goes like this: no matter how many steps we take away from God, it only takes one step to get back to God. No matter how many steps we take away from God, it only takes one step to get back to God. Christ became human, one of us, not to take away our problems, but to teach us to cope with them and so live more responsibility. Live for others. How? By an attitude of discovery. Listen to this following. I slept and I dreamed that life was all joy. I woke and saw that life was but service. I served and understood that service was joy. I slept and dreamed that all life was joy. I woke and saw that life was but service. I served and understood that service was joy. There's no such thing as being a Christian. There's only becoming a Christian. We call ourselves human beings, but in many ways we are human becomings. That's why to believe in God is to know there will always be a second chance. Our God of forgiveness, mercy. God forgives us always, but sometimes we can't forgive ourselves, and God says, let it go. I love you. But we cling to the past. God never clings to the past. Our attitude must be that of Christ, for living is a creative process, and creativity is sparked by contrast. This contrast is clearly revealed in the life of Christ. When others were taking, Jesus was giving. When others were condemning, Jesus was forgiving. When others were accumulating, Jesus was emptying. When others were putting down, Jesus raised up. When others mocked, Jesus loved. We are challenged to do the same. For our attitude must be that of Jesus Christ. Live each day as though it were your last, because one day you will be right. There's a wonderful book by Robert Fulghum. The book is entitled, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And here is the poem, one of the poems or stories from that book, the title of the book. And it goes like this. All I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. These are the things I learned in kindergarten. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. What else I learned in kindergarten? Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some, and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. You go out into the world, watch for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup? The roots go down, the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why. We're all like that. And then remember the Dick and Jane books, and the first word you learned, the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know was founded somewhere in kindergarten. Think about what a better world this would be if the whole world had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon and then laid down with their blankies for a nap. If all the governments had as a basic policy to always put things back where you found them and to clean up your own mess. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out in the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. It is best to hold hands and stick together. May God bless all of you. Stay healthy.